How does dynamic range affect high-key studio lighting? Imagine capturing a scene so bright and airy that it feels almost glowing. That's the essence of high-key studio lighting, but how does the camera's ability to handle different light levels influence this look? Well, it all comes down to dynamic range. Dynamic range is the camera sensor's capacity to record the darkest shadows and the brightest highlights in a shot. When you set up high-key lighting, you aim for a scene filled with light tones and very few shadows. This means the scene is intentionally bright and evenly lit. Since high-key images relying on bright, smooth transitions between tones, the camera needs enough dynamic range to capture all those subtle differences. If the sensor's dynamic range is too narrow, the brightest parts can blow out, turning pure white with no detail. That's called highlight clipping. When highlights clip, you lose texture and nuance in the brightest areas, which can make the image look flat or washed out. On the other hand, if the camera has a wide dynamic range, it can record the gentle gradations of brightness without losing detail. This results in a soft, airy look that high-key photography is known for. In practical terms, photographers working with high-key studio setups should choose cameras with good dynamic range performance. This helps in capturing the scene's full tonal spectrum without losing detail in the highlights or shadows. Proper exposure is also key. Overexposing slightly can push the highlights to the edge without clipping, especially when shooting in RAW format. Shooting in RAW allows for more flexibility during post-processing, letting you recover details in the highlights or shadows if needed. Lighting ratios are another factor. High-key setups usually use multiple light sources or reflectors to create even, bright illumination. This reduces contrast and shadows, but it also means the camera must handle a wide range of brightness levels. If the dynamic range is limited, some areas might turn into pure white or black, losing detail. To sum up, dynamic range directly impacts how well your camera can record the bright, low-contrast scenes typical of high-key studio lighting. A sensor with higher dynamic range will preserve the subtle brightness variations that give high-key images their characteristic light and delicate look. It allows you to capture clean, bright images with smooth transitions, rather than flat or blown-out highlights. So, choosing a camera with a good dynamic range is essential for achieving the perfect high-key effect in your studio work.